What's up from San Jose, Silicon Valley? We're out of Hawaii. We're back in California. End of EFM. Everybody's been working long weeks, I'm sure, and my head looks pretty glossy. So a few things. We're not just going to do a question this time, but there were a couple of items that I wanted to talk on before we get to this week's question. First thing is European film market. It was a good market. There were a lot of kind of pundits thinking that everything was going to be really stressful and not really knowing what kind of new content was going to come in or what the acquisitions were going to look like. It was a big market. Netflix came in, 800-pound gorilla. They acted like it, set a new record, $18 million acquisition on this new Liam Neeson picture. I think they did another one at 15 mil. It's kind of interesting to see we're not post-pandemic. We're still dealing with it. People are still producing content, and the markets still have content coming in. I would actually say things have been improving. I mean, looking at the way that AFM was behaving in 2020, EFM, they've had some more competitive stuff. People were out there, filmmakers were out there getting stuff done, not really giving a shit about, hey, we've got a pandemic to worry about. Instead, they rolled their sleeves up and they figured out ways to make movies happen. I've seen a lot of this also happening on the independent side where, producers, filmmakers, directors, actors, everybody wants to work. So they're just getting creative and figuring out how can we get it done. And that's really cool to see. And that's really exciting because, of course, there was a really big concern that, the markets would be thin. I know from the smaller filmmaker side, there was a lot of hope that I heard about mid last year, thinking, well, the big players aren't producing as much content right now because of the pandemic. So we're hoping that our smaller films are going to be worth more in the marketplace. That was, I think, a little bit of wishful thinking. It's a very competitive market. There's still a lot of good movies out there that are getting produced, albeit the quantity of content has gone down. But all in all, we're looking at a bit of a resurgence going on here right now. So that's pretty cool to see. One of the other topics I wanted to talk on, and I'm not a stockbroker. I don't know the laws behind this. I'm not a stockbroker. I can't tell people what to do. Do not listen to me. All of this is garbage. But we're 80% up here at S&R in terms of our investments into Lionsgate. So LGFA, LGFB. I feel like Wall Street still has a really difficult time understanding the way that the film industry works. And, the bottom line is Lionsgate is trading way below their book value. Or actually, I think they're a little bit above book value at this point, but they're very competitive. And a big reason why the stock price dropped not too long ago is because of their acquisition of Stars. And this is something that I think, and this is going to lead into what I want to talk about, but this is one of the things that Wall Street just kind of doesn't understand about the entertainment industry is they saw sort of on the books losses for Lionsgate when Lionsgate acquired Stars. And they basically said, well, yeah, you've got this money coming in, but you've got this money immediately going right back out. And so then they downgraded it as a company. But what they have a hard time understanding is that there's a difference between a production company and a distribution company and a platform. And what Lionsgate is essentially doing for themselves right now is they're turning themselves into a platform. And I'm honored and I'm proud to be doing business with them. We sold 4 pictures to them last year. I love being in business with them. They are, in my opinion, one of the smartest companies in the entertainment industry because these guys are lean and mean. They are very pragmatic. They'll take risks, but they're very calculated risks. So seeing what they're doing with Stars and the massive subscriber growth that they've had over the past year is incredible. So for the people who play in the stock market, I mean, I would at least say go tell your brokers, take a look, because I think it's really interesting what they're doing. I think the long play is that Lionsgate is going to be a sincere competitor to Disney Plus, to Netflix, to Amazon, hands down. They do development, they do financing, they do production, distribution, and now they are their own platform, which is going to allow them to integrate themselves directly with the consumers. It doesn't get cooler than that. I'm excited about it. On that note, so One of the things I wanted to talk about is the difference between distributors and platforms. Netflix is, like I said, the 800-pound gorilla, and they get to kind of move their weight around. Um, they're a platform and a distributor. So they're in a really unique position, the way that they've straddled themselves, where if a filmmaker comes to them and is pitching them a project that's already completed for a potential acquisition, Netflix, they might be really interested in the project, but they might think, well, we don't want to spend, the high dollar amount on this to, let's say, call it a Netflix original and get exclusivity. And because they're a platform, not just a distributor, they know full well that that movie is going to be pitched right back to them as a sub-license later on. So their subscribership is still going to get access to that content. And, for Netflix, I mean, they are fighting a war of attrition. They want to get as many subscribers as they can, and they want to prevent as many of their current subscribers from falling off as they can. So they just want to build up their subscribership, and they don't have to have originals to do that, but they certainly set a really strong tone for the company when they do and when they develop amazing projects in-house. So on that note, one of the questions that I got was, why is it during a pandemic my thriller film is not getting picked up for distribution at 6 figures plus for North American rights? Well, not much has changed. So you still need to have strong name talent. And the way that I describe it to like my friends and family is I say, look, I'm from Hawaii. If I'm and I always consider myself kind of a flyover state. It's like I like my just straight to action thrillers, sci-fis. So when I sit down to watch a movie, I look at the key art. Like I judge a book by its cover, and I think most of America does, and most of the world does. So if I see an actor who I already know and trust and like, and they're in a genre that I like, and it's got a good trailer, chances are I'm going to rent that thing or I'm going to buy that thing. And that's the end of it. And there's not too many times where you hear about somebody renting a movie on Amazon and then demanding a refund. So it matters. Name talent matters. You can have a really great movie, but if you've got 0 names, you're going to see that reflected in your acquisition prices. Now, if you do have a great movie, I mean, I know that there's plenty of people that would want to argue, and the person that asked me this question, so I'm not going to name names, was a bit argumentative, saying, well, what if I go to Sundance? Well, that's a different story. If you go to Sundance, you're generating your own buzz. So now your film is no longer relying on its name talent to be the sort of celebrity factor. Now the film is becoming its own celebrity in a way. But you can't guarantee that. You can't guarantee that you're going to go to Sundance or you're going to go to TIFF or South by. So you can't guarantee it. And since you can't guarantee it, if you're trying to play things safe and you don't just want to make one movie and disappoint investors, you need to make a movie that you can sell in the current market, which means getting name talent. There are certainly circumstances where you can make a low budget film with relatively no name talent and make your money back, but you're talking very low budgets. So right now in the market, what we're seeing getting picked up with ease, you got to be in the 7-figure range. You really kind of want to be at 3 mil plus. You want to be in marketable genres. So that's, your actions or your thrillers, horror films, sci-fi films, westerns are actually getting popular right now. And that's basically it. Like, for everybody thinking that we're swimming into some giant wave of benefit from the pandemic and a slowdown in production, don't count on it. You still have to make a good movie, still have to make a movie with talent that are going to attract the audiences. So do that. The second question that was submitted from our pal Ron was about investments in a post-pandemic world. And I wasn't really clear what he meant by it, so I emailed with him. So he was kind of saying during the pandemic, there were less flights going on, there were less meetings going on, so there was less contact. And his question, I think, was kind of, what what is the world going to look like now and in the near future for filmmakers who have maybe been holed up and kind of hanging out in the closet and not really communicating with others in the outside world in terms of networking because they've been limited in their ability to do so due to the pandemic. I have actually seen more activity during the pandemic than I did in the previous year. I think the pandemic, we're talking about a creative industry here, and even on the business side, they're creative. These are creative people. Most of the people who got into the film business are creative at their core, and they got creative with their networking. I mean, LinkedIn has turned into like a personal CRM for a lot of individuals that I know. They've been meeting people that they never would have met with otherwise if it wasn't for the pandemic. And I can tell you personally, I've forged some really unique and I think lifelong and valuable relationships during the pandemic as a result of it. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to go out there and network in person. I wasn't going to be meeting new people. So I started getting more creative in how I was going to cultivate new relationships during this very odd time that we're all living in. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people doing that, and a lot of the people that I've met with, I think that they have kind of the same view on it. So we've found a lot of new opportunities. I found a lot of filmmakers who've found a lot of new opportunities. So I guess, Ron, to answer your question, filmmaking in a post-pandemic world, I think it's more creative, but it's also more aggressive. People took advantage of the fact that they were going to be staying at home, knowing that everybody else was going to stay at home. So instead of saying, well, in an 8-hour day, I've only got the opportunity to meet face to face with, let's say, 3 people, they knew that everybody was sitting at home, and they said to themselves, I can meet with 9 people. I can meet with 10 people today. I can have these little brief meetings and conversations and start to cultivate these new relationships in a meaningful way. And I've seen a lot of work get done in this period of time. It's really amazing, and I'm really thankful to see that so many people got creative and were able to keep content flowing and productions on their feet. Obviously, a lot of projects got shut down or paused, but for every project that was paused or shut down, there was a half a project that I think was maybe greenlit that wouldn't have been beforehand. There's a lot of movies that I think we're going to see in the marketplace in the next 6 months that may have never have existed if it wasn't for this really difficult time that the entire world went through. So that's all I've got for everybody today. As always, subscribe, please do. I want to answer as many questions as I can, so send in your questions, info@snrfilms.com. There's also a form that is sent out to all of our subscribers via email that you can fill out, and we'll get to them when we can. I'm trying to do this as regularly as possible, but it's obviously busy days. You guys are busy, so I respect that. Anyways, that's it. Signing off from Silicon Valley. Aloha.